This is a PlayStation exclusive that I've been looking to play for quite a while, and I don't really know why I've actually avoided this series in its entirety. And I'll be honest, even for a PlayStation 4 game that was released way back in 2014, even on the relic of a gaming system that is the PlayStation 4 at this point, it is absolutely sensational. Truly a great experience, and you're gonna have a great time playing this game. Now, I've played throughout the entire Infamous series and I've had an absolutely great time playing all of those games way back on the PlayStation 3. Infamous 1 was great, but the dark and dreary tone was definitely, in my opinion, holding the series back. Infamous 2 brought some more levity, but through and through, Infamous definitely tried to add some mature undertones into their stories at all times. Infamous Second Son, I'd say, has perfected that balance of having a dark and mature story while having some great comedic relief and levity to the entire experience. Now, if I'm being absolutely honest with you, the story of Infamous Second Son is probably as cliche as they're going to come. It's expected, it has the big bad, it has the good guy. Whichever story you decide to take, it's going to be as cliche as they come. It's not going to be a story you're definitely going to be writing home about. You're probably going to see every single plot point and twist coming, except maybe the one towards the end, and that's the one involving the final villain. It's definitely something you're not going to expect, so it's something to look forward to. But in terms of a story, it's alright, and it does get the job done. Now, I want you guys to understand this. I'm not dunking on the story. I'm not saying it's bad. It was by no means bad by any sense, but it was painfully mediocre. And unfortunately, this is the case for most of Sucker Punch's games. If you've played Ghost of Tsushima, which was released way back in 2020, it's definitely, by most people's opinions, a masterpiece. It has absolutely perfected the open world formula and absolutely knocked that part out of the park. Now, if we're talking about visual spectacle, absolutely nobody comes close. But when it comes to a narrative, nothing comes to the peak that they were able to reach with, I'd say, the good ending of Infamous 2. A lot more work needs to be done, and Sucker Punch definitely needs to step their game up. Even considering Ghost of Tsushima, that story wasn't bad by any means, but it was pretty mid, bro. I'll be absolutely honest with you. Now, Ghost of Tsushima did have some very cool and sensational moments, particularly when the story focused on Jin's past and his relationship with his uncle that was formed due to the tragedy of the Sakai family. Sucker Punch are sensational developers. No one comes close to them when we're talking about visual spectacle. But when it comes to having a great narrative, much more can definitely be desired from these guys. Now, your brother Reggie is a stereotypical annoying, responsible older brother figure, and Delson, the main protagonist, is a stereotypical delinquent we've grown up to see in the 2000s. He's a pretty mid-protagonist, to be absolutely honest. His character design also could really use some work. One thing I'm happy about is that the punk rocker skater, like Beanie style, died back in the 2010s, bro. A corny era of fashion that definitely needs to be forgotten. Now, my first experience with Infamous Second Son, and actually the Infamous series in general, was actually watching another Let's Play YouTuber. He's probably the biggest Let's Play YouTuber on the platform right now. It's the Rad Brad. Great guy, cool, good vibes, and I would watch him. I think I was back in grade 8th grade. When I was watching him play it, and I watched him start from finish, and playing it this year, totally different experience, brand new, it was fresh. I remembered some aspects of the story but not all of it, and it was overall a pretty enjoyable experience. What I will say is that I do feel the story was a little bit too short. I needed some more from it. It wasn't long enough. And even the supporting characters, the other conduits that are involved in the story, you spend at maximum about one mission once you've befriended them to build a bond and get to know them better. Now, once you acquire their power and you touch them as Delson, you do get a little bit of a summary of a backstory of who they are, how they've become who they've become, and the story they've had and the interactions they've had with Abigail and the DUP, but it leaves much to be desired. You want more from it, and it's just it's whatever. As you most likely know, you make decisions throughout the game whether you choose to be good or evil. This is nice, as the game gives you a reason for a second playthrough. But I'll be honest, working on these extremes of the moral spectrum can be a bit annoying. Good Delson is at times too selfless, and at times evil Delson is ridiculously sinister. I personally couldn't bear to do an evil playthrough, as some of the actions that he does are a bit ridiculous and way too out of whack. Karmic Chaos is definitely how I would describe the combat in Infamous. The only gripe I have with this game is the inability to take cover. A cover system would greatly help as the enemies you encounter have crazy aim assist, or actually aimbot is a better description of this. Nonetheless, the combat is great, chaotic fun. As you progress, you unlock more powers and abilities. I will argue though that you are given many powers, too many powers for one game. Focus is unfortunately lost. But I'll speak more on that when I speak about Infamous First Light, the standalone DLC. Each power of course has its own unique abilities that are cool and unique, with my personal favorites being Smoke and Neon. I have to say this, but this is probably the most beautiful game available on PlayStation 4. It's absolutely gorgeous and runs exceptionally well. A huge big W for PlayStation. I'm sure if you played this back in 2014, you were absolutely blown away. In the beginning though, traversal can be painfully slow compared to how Cole ripped down the power lines in New Marais, New Orleans. Well, essentially the quip of, or the copy-paste of New Orleans, fake New Orleans, New Marais. But as you progress through the story, you'll gain more traversal abilities as it increases. Now, Seattle is a great playground. Pretty is the word I'd use to describe it. The world is of course filled with your typical generic jibber-jabber, including the typical Ubisoft-style outposts. Now, these DUP outposts are a great way for you to farm XP, gain experience, and level up and gain new powers. And when you're trying to complete some of the missions, there are some sort of an artificial barrier before you're able to complete those story missions. It'll say you'll get to the mission arena and it'll say, no, you have to destroy the DUP core relay in the area before you can continue in this area. And that's kind of just an artificial way for you to keep playing the game longer and to kind of lengthen the story time, because I'll be honest, I was disappointed. It does feel like a shorter campaign, but when we get over to the value section, I'll give you the raw numbers so you guys can make that decision for yourself if this is a game you want to pick up. If anything, if there's going to be any real incentive for you to actually pick up Infamous Second Son, it's for the visuals and for the great and awesome combat. Whatever system you're playing on, whether it's the PS4, PS4 Pro or the PS5, you're going to have an absolutely sensational experience. It plays smoothly, runs well, and it's a visual spectacle. Seattle is gorgeous. I don't know Seattle was that good looking, but they definitely did a good job to definitely enhance that, and it's a great time. The story is decent enough to keep you going and to complete the game, but it will leave you wanting a little bit more, and perhaps Infamous First Light is the way in which you're going to be satiated by the end of it all. Over the years of gaming, there's been plenty of DLC that you could definitely consider inconsequential, stuff that doesn't matter and is honestly just a waste of time, sometimes even a cash grab. I'd say Infamous First Light is definitely not that, and it definitely well expands the story of Infamous Second Son and gives you some pretty interesting context to the events that happen in the beginning. You follow Fetch as she describes her journey of trying to escape Seattle with her brother Brent and finally getting true control of her powers. The story is short but impactful. This junkie's been through a lot and she goes through a lot more until she finally breaks at the very end. I mentioned that before in Second Son you have access to a little bit of too many powers. The game ends up lacking focus. Playing First Light did nothing but reassure my stance on that topic. In First Light you can play only with Neon, but it's much more powerful and essentially a more focused version of it. Fetch is faster and more powerful than Delson in Second Son, and I'll be honest, after completing First Light, Fetch seems to be the strongest conduit in the verse. Now of course I understand that because it's a game they're going to overinflate her powers. That just shows how well executed it was and how powerful the game truly makes you feel. Just by considering her speed and destructive ability, not only is she a powerhouse, but her precision shots make her into a deadly sniper. A great experience nonetheless. Though this is a prequel, you also get a better understanding of the main villain. To this day I wonder what her true intentions really were. Was she trying to build some sort of special conduit army? Well, why was she trying so hard to protect all these conduits? I understand that it was her kind, but what were her ultimate goals? What were her ulterior motives? I truly can't get a grasp on that, and I wonder what those truly were by the end of it all. It's clear that she cares about the conduits deeply, but her ways eliminate free will, and sometimes life without freedom is not life at all. Now, you can get Infamous Second Son and Infamous First Light today, included in PS Plus Extra. No need for Deluxe, in PS Plus Extra, especially because considering how short these games are, Infamous Second Son in its entirety is about 10.5 hours long if you focus on the main story, and 21 hours if you want to be more so a completionist and do all the kind of mediocre open world content, which is pretty much destroying the DUP outposts and all of those other things. Infamous First Light is about 5.5 hours, also a pretty short campaign, but if you sandwich it together, you'll get about 16 hours of content overall from completing and playing both of these games. So you're going to be pretty satisfied with the amount of playtime that you're going to be getting. A decent experience, and it's going to be a good time. So if you guys are looking for a rating from me for Infamous Second Son and Infamous First Light, I'm giving Infamous Second Son and First Light a 7 out of 10, and I'm giving it to both of them. Second Son gets a 7, First Light gets a 7. They're great games, they're enjoyable, they're smooth, everything is executed very well. I'll give it a Sucker Punch. Sucker Punch are perfectionists. They definitely, everything that they do, they will do it well. The only thing is that they were just lacking to push the game to the next level, to absolutely push the envelope, and that's what I'd say is probably Sucker Punch's biggest issue as developer. They're not exceptional, and by this I mean they're not trendsetters. They're not going to make a masterpiece or a legendary game that's going to be remembered for generations and generations and generations to come. They unfortunately kind of work in a generic kind of pocket, which is okay. There's no hate on that, but they take ideas and things that have been done by other people and just execute it well. The only thing that I'd say is different and unique about them is the evil and good playthroughs that gives you some variety and gives these games much more replay value. But other than that, it's just a decent title and you definitely will enjoy yourself. No major complaints, everything is smooth and executed well, but it's not some masterpiece, and that's okay. So guys, those are my thoughts on this game. I enjoyed it and had a pretty good time, and I recommend you go ahead and pick this game up. You're going to be playing it for a decent amount of time, and you're going to pretty much clock this out in a weekend, bro, and you'll be all good and still have some time to go out and party and do whatever you want to do for the rest of the weekend. So yeah, it's a pretty good time. It's a decent title, and yeah, I had a good time with it. So guys, like, comment and subscribe. Tell me your thoughts down there in the comments. Did you like the game? Did you not like the game? Do you disagree with my rating? Let me know. My name is Explicit Sage. I'm out.